In the town of Bodø in northern Norway, a couple are hard at work renovating their family home. For more than a century, it has been handed down through the generations, all the while hiding a haunting secret. Now, the floorboards have been praised up to reveal a cache of mysterious relics buried in the dirt. So what is the story of this modern treasure trove? Back in 1914, Marian Christiansen's great-grandfather built the property in Bodø, a surprisingly bustling town located north of Arctic Circle. But it seems as if he was totally oblivious to what was lurking beneath the foundations. Finally, in May 2020, renovations revealed what the house has been hiding all these years. Hoping to improve the insulation in the century-old property, Christiansen and her partner lifted the floorboards on the ground level. As they did so, they might have expected to find dust, garbage, even a mouse or two, the typical stuff that gathers under an old house. But what they actually uncovered was something that neither of them were expecting. In this coastal town on the edge of the Norwegian Sea, the couple unearthed a fascinating secret. A relic buried long before the house was built. Plus, it had been lurking in the ground for centuries before the dramatic discovery. But what was it? And how did it wind up beneath a fairly unremarkable family home? Located more than 700 miles north of the Norwegian capital at Oslo, Bodø is part of the county known as Nordland, along with Troms og Finnmark. The two regions make up northern Norway. Around a third of the country's total land mass, and even today, it remains one of the remotest parts of mainland Europe. Known as the land of the midnight sun, northern Norway is possibly one of the weirdest places on Earth. From May until the end of July, the sun remains in the sky for 24 hours every day, creating a land without twilight or night. Meanwhile, the countryside is littered with countless lakes and fjords, creating a haunting landscapes that has given birth to many strange stories. According to experts, humans have lived in Nordland for at least 10,500 years. Drawn to the region by the rich array of resources provided by the sea. First, it's believed that the Stone Age people settled here, followed by the establishment of Bronze Age communities, but today the region is probably best known for its connections to the Vikings. Emerging in Scandinavia in the 9th century AD. The Vikings were a seafaring people known for their prowess in battle. Across much of Europe, they were regarded as fearsome conquerors, raiding and pillaging coastal communities far and wide. But back home in Nordland, they lived a much more sedate lifestyle in agricultural communities. By the end of the 11th century, though, the Viking Age was over, and places such as Nordland had been converted into Christian kingdoms. And as the years passed, modern cities and towns sprang up across the county. But beneath the surface, a rich history still lurked, just waiting to be discovered. Many hundreds of years after the Vikings thrived in Nordland, Christiansen unearthed a historic treasure beneath her Bodø home. But was it a relic left behind by these fearsome warriors? Perhaps a stash of valuables hidden away for safekeeping? Or was it something else altogether? After all, it was not just the Norsemen who left their mark on the region. Towards the beginning of World War II, for example, The Luftwaffe bombed Bodø, razing many of its buildings to the ground, and out of the 6,000 people living in the town of the time, more than half of them saw their homes destroyed. Over the next 2 decades, the town was slowly pieced back together. Maybe then Christiansen and her partner had stumbled across an artifact from this tumultuous period in time? Or from the early 19th century, when the town of Bodø became embroiled in an infamous smuggling affair. In an area so rich with history, there are likely a great number of fascinating artifacts waiting to be discovered. The house had been in the family for more than 100 years before the couple decided to embark on some renovations, and in May 2020 they got to work. The goal, apparently, was to install some new insulation underneath the floor. But after lifting the boards and removing a layer of sand, Christiansen spotted a number of stones in the cavity beneath. As it turned out, that was just the beginning of what would turn out to be an incredible discovery. Beneath the stones, the couple saw something else, an object that glittered as it caught the light, but even then, they remained clueless as to what was in store. According to the Norwegian television channel TV2, Christiansen and her partner initially believed that they had uncovered a wheel belonging to a toy car. Soon, though, the couple realized that could not be the case. After all, the floorboards had been in place since the house was first built in 1914. So what else could it be? On closer inspection, they realized that the object was actually a bead made from glass. The first clue that something unusual was lurking beneath their Bodø home. As they peered down into the cavity under the house, Christiansen and her partner spotted another strange artifact. This time, it was a sizable axe head crafted from iron, and alongside it they found a number of additional objects made from the same metal. By this point, they were sure that they had stumbled across something more interesting than typical household debris. So the couple reached out to the Nordland County Authority for further clarification, and the next day a team of Tromsø museum experts arrived in Bodø to investigate the historic find. After inspecting the site, they concluded that the relics were likely part of a grave some 1,000 years old. We assume it dates back to the 9th century. Probably a grave from the Viking Age. Martinus Høglig, an archaeologist working for the Nordland authorities, told Forbes in May 2020. Plus, experts were able to establish that the axe head and bead were probably forged sometime between 950 and 1050 AD. During that period, according to Høglig, Christianity had begun to spread out across Norway, and the country was on its way towards becoming a united kingdom. At the same time, the Vikings were still a force to be reckoned with across much of Europe. So who exactly was buried here? Was it a great warrior, or perhaps someone connected with the burgeoning church? At the moment, experts are unsure exactly who might have been laid to rest in the grave beneath Christiansen's family home. But they appear to be confident that it's a burial site of some kind. Speaking to the English language Norwegian news network The Local in May 2020, Høglig explained, "It was found under stones that probably represent a cairn. Today, cairns made up of stones piled on top of one another often serve as landmarks on hillsides and mountains around the world. But back in prehistoric times, they were typically built to mark burial places and graves. Although Christiansen and her partner only discovered a few rocks beneath their home, experts believe they may have once formed part of a larger stack. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.